Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the lecture series, The English Novel. In this series we have been discussing novel which as it flourished in Britain in different centuries. And initially we talked about the form of the novel, and eventually we moved on to looking at particular texts from different centuries. In the ongoing discussion we have been talking about the 19th century novel, and today as well we will talk about The Picture of Dorian Gray. So this is a novel written in 19th century by the Irish writer Oscar Wilde. So it's one of the popular texts considered to be a classic in that sense. So let us see what are the concerns in the text and how do we approach it. First, I will want all of you to be acquainted with the author who wrote it. So Oscar Wilde was a prominent 19th century writer. He wrote poems, plays, and one novel which is of course in discussion today. Now he died very young, which is at the age of 46, which also tells us that why there are fewer texts, so to say, but yet in whatever that he wrote, all those plays, poems and this particular novel have been of quite repute and widely discussed. Now if we look at the movement that he's associated with, it is aestheticism, right? So he was associated with aestheticism, which is an intellectual and art movement that emphasized on aesthetics in literature, music and other arts. So of course, as the term itself suggests, the basic premise of this movement, which was both intellectual and a creative or an art movement, was a discussion of aesthetic, was a discussion of the beauty oriented with any art form, be it in the written word or the one which is painted, right? So we will very quickly discuss different features of this movement so that we're able to better appreciate Oscar Wilde's work in discussion today. So the first thing that you need to understand is this operative phrase of this movement was art for art's sake. Now what does this mean? This basically establishes the idea that art, treating art or considering art for the sake of pleasure, right? So artwork as a source of pleasure and not as much instruction, right? So the difference basically is that this in the way we approach a particular work. So here in this movement, the basic feature surrounded the idea of beauty in a particular art, studying it and examining it. So hence art for art's sake came to be the operative phrase associated with the artists of this movement. Now if we look at the time that it came into being, it began sometime around the 1860s in England with a small group of artists that included Walter Hamilton, Walter Pater, Oscar Wilde, D.G. Rossetti, and there were others as well. So this group of artists would then meet regularly, and they shared this common belief in the idea of aesthetics. The third important thing that we need to remember about this movement in order for us to appreciate works that belong to it is the fact that this movement challenged Victorian propriety and its belief in ethical value of art. So students, we cannot forget that 1860s is the period of late 19th century, and we know that early 19th century is the Victorian phase. So that's the time when Queen Victoria ruled England, and there was a particular kind of writing, particular kind of values that had predominated Britain at the time, right? So now those particular values actually stand challenged in the movement aestheticism that bloomed towards the end of the century. Now, if we talk about what are the values, what Victorian ideas that were challenged, the foremost is Victorian propriety. So there was a sense of being proper. There was a sense of having a particular code of conduct socially, and all of that was paid attention to in a lot of detail during this Victorianism. And the second important thing which also defined that time, or this artistic movement, artistic literary movement, Victorianism, was also a belief in the ethical value of art. So art was believed to have some kind of a function, it was to have a social function, it was to carry a message, right? Now both these things stand questioned in this movement of aestheticism that comes into being in the late 19th century. So the novel that we talk about today, which is The Picture of Victorian Grey, carries the ideals of this movement, which is aestheticism, right? So before I go into a detailed discussion of the text, I'll give you a brief idea of what goes on, or the plot outline. So the action in this novel is set in London. It charts the trajectory of a young man, Dorian Gray, from innocence to knowledge. And now this trajectory then we see culminates in self-destruction. So at the center of the text is this character, which you also see, his reference is there in the title as well. So we see the journey of this particular young man from the time from a stage of life wherein he's innocent to a time when he acquires knowledge of different value systems and how they eventually wreak havoc on him, which culminate in some kind of a self-destruction. Now, I don't want to already spill the beans. I will want you to, of course, read the text, and also as we discuss, you will know what exactly is this self-destruction, what are these value systems that I'm referring to. Also, it's a text which is, not very lengthy, so it's about spans about 150 pages. So we can also perhaps call it a novella. Right, and the other thing that this book is also very, very well known for is the epigrams that Oscar Wilde includes in this novel. You will really enjoy reading it, because now what are these epigrams? Epigrams are these short statements, that convey a very sharp idea. So you will see a lot of those strewn across the text. I hope that this has piqued your curiosity already to pick up this novel and analyze it. But as we go along, you will also see what are the different ideas relevant in this particular text. So now there are three major characters in the novel: Dorian Gray, Basil Hallward, and Lord Henry. Right. So I'll talk about these characters in detail in a bit, but let's first see. And so what we see on screen over here is also this book cover of this particular text. And I think this is from the time when it was published, which is in the late 19th century. So this discussion, before I go into it, I will talk about the three major ideas that you need to be aware of while examining this text. The first is that there's a tension between different value systems and a question of relevance of each. So we will see in this novel throughout right from the beginning to the end, the author presents some kind of a clash between different ways of thinking, different if you can call it ideologies that come in a kind of confrontation, and then we are made to wonder which of these is relevant and if at all scores above the other or not. So this kind of attention then is captured in the novel, and it's good for you to be aware of it before you kind of start to read the text. And the second important idea is that in the novel we see Wilde's dialectic, Oscar Wilde's dialectic understanding of art. Now, what do we mean by the word dialectic? Dialectic basically implies an understanding in which a particular or if you look at it this way, if we talk about a particular idea and the dialectic of that idea, this basically means that if one thing is true of the idea, its opposite is also considered to be true, right? So this dialectic understanding of art and its place in society is what we see in the novel again, right? The third idea that we also notice is that this novel presents a rejection of Victorian hypocrisy. So if you remember, I in the beginning of the lecture also alerted you to this fact, that how this text belongs to the movement of aestheticism, and the basic premise of that of aestheticism also was the questioning of Victorian values in both culture and society. Right? So we will trace these three ideas as we go along in the discussion of this particular lecture. So beginning with the first one, which is a tension between value systems. So at the center of the novel is a dilemma about values which are significant to human living. Now, ideals that define a worldview. Right? Now, why do I call it a dilemma? Because it is difficult to pin down what is it that the author believes in, right? So throughout the text, what is dramatized are these three different ways of living, or these three different perspectives that seem to clash, and these three perspectives we see embodied in the three central characters that I had talked about. Okay, so this conundrum or the tension concerns the coexistence of varying impulses. So questions like when these different value systems come together in the through various characters, we wonder, can these values coexist? Can one be considered more fruitful, more desirable than the other? Right? So these questions automatically come to mind as one reads the text. So I have talked about the value system, but let me now define these worldviews or perspectives or the value systems which are at variance in the novel. So the first one is creativity or beauty. Second is indulgence, and third is innocence. Now, if you notice that each of these ways of life or way of thought is associated with a particular character. So creativity or beauty is associated with Basil Hallward. Now, who is Basil Hallward? He is the painter in the novel, the painter who paints the portrait of Dorian Gray, right? And you also notice that the title of the novel is also what? Portrait of Dorian Gray. The second value is indulgence. Now, this is embodied in the character Lord Henry. He is Basil Hallward's friend who visits him often, at the time when he's painting some artwork in his studio. Now, Lord Henry then, stands for this set of ideas, which involves indulgence in sense pleasures, which does not pay heed to the social structures, etc. So this is a second way of living, or the second set of ideas which Oscar Wilde presents in the novel. Now the third is innocence. The innocence we see is conveyed through the character of Dorian Gray. So he is this young boy who acts as a not acts, I should say, who is actually a sitter for the painter Basil Hallward. What do we mean by sitter? Sitter means that this model who then the painter ultimately paints on canvas. So Dorian Gray is this very good-looking young boy whom the painter Basil Hallward is painting. So friends, what we'll do now is that we will very quickly talk about each of these three characters and the ideas associated with their persona in the text, and we'll also notice that how each of them, they represent a particular value system, and what are the points made by the writer in such a character description. Okay, so first of course is Basil Hallward, the artist. So he represents the aesthetic potential in humans. He derives inspiration from beauty and charm of personality embodied in Dorian Gray. Right, so Hallward thinks that he is immensely charmed by the beauty that that is in the physical appearance of Dorian Gray. Now it is his fascination is to an extent that he says that Dorian Gray kind of has an all-consuming influence on this artist. So he does not merely take him as a sitter or somebody who he is painting, but instead we see that he is so much in sway by his beauty that this is all that comes to define not just Basil Hallward's artwork but his own self as well. So what we notice then is that he goes beyond the mundane and the material. So it's not the everyday, it's not the tangible reality which inspires this artist. Instead, what inspires him is beauty, right, and the charm of personality. Now again, I will wish to draw your attention to the fact that how this again underscores the particular text as belonging to the aesthetic movement. So let's very quickly look at this seminal dialogue by, not dialogue but a statement by Basil Hallward in the text. He says, he is much more to me than a model or a sitter. So he over here refers to Dorian Gray. He is much more to me than a novel or a sitter. I knew I had come face to face with someone whose mere personality was so fascinating that if I allowed it to do so, it would absorb my whole nature, my whole soul, my very art itself, unquote. So students, this is a moment in the text when Basil for the first time comes across Dorian Gray. And you notice with the words that he uses, he says that his personality was such that it would absorb my whole nature, my whole soul. So we see the kind of depths of inspiration that he acquires from the idea of beauty alone. So it is just the aesthetically pleasing, that which is aesthetically pleasing, which defines Basil's not just artwork but also begins to define his own self. So one thing you would have then noticed in the process is that how the self and the art do not seem to be different over here, isn't it? And should they be different is something that I will really like you to wonder and think about, right? Now the second important idea associated with the character of Basil is that beauty alone is the source of a work of art. Now, manner of art is deemed significant by him and not as much the purpose. So, in fact, you will see that this character also introduces this idea of two very important, defining factors of art. One is the manner, or which is to do with the aesthetic, the way it is composed, the form of art, and the other is the purpose. So we see in the novel that Basil associates with the first one, that is the manner of art or the form of art or the way it is constructed, the way it appeals, or the artistic appeal of it. Nowhere does he talk about its purpose. So this again underlines the particular value system that Basil stands for. Now let's very quickly look at this another a significant assertion by him in the text. He says, his personality has suggested to me, so again his over here stands for Dorian Gray. His personality has suggested to me an entirely new manner in art. Notice the word manner in art. I see things differently. I think of them differently. I can now recreate life in a way that was hidden from me before, unquote. So see, now Dorian Gray is no longer just a person that he is painting. He is somebody who defines an entire way of art for Basil. He is so engaged with this subject that it not just influence his own personality, the creator's personality, but at the same time we also see that he begins to look at life very differently. He begins to look at things very differently. So what this tells us is the kind of influence that a creation or a subject has for an artist. So again, the second important point being stated, that how manner of art then is more important than its purpose for this particular character. And the third thing that we also need to remember while studying this character is that he makes us wonder about the nature of art as well. Here it is created out of a deep personal experience and appreciation of the aesthetic. Now, why do we call it a personal experience? If you read the novel, you will see the kind of fascination that Basil takes for Dorian Gray. The moment he sees him, he is completely smitten, completely enamored, and cannot think of anybody or anything else but of Dorian Gray. So, what does this show? This shows an extremely intimate relationship between the creator and the subject of creation, right? Now, students, I will also like to draw your attention to a strand of thought which is a lot of times associated with Oscar Wilde, is that he was gay. Right? Now, this is also a reason why his works at the time were considered to be blasphemous, were considered to be profane that way. So it can be read, that Basil Hallward's fascination towards Dorian Gray a lot of times verges onto this kind of romantic fascination as well. So yes, it is transmuted or it is represented in the way of art, but at the same time that is also a parallel line of thought that you may keep in mind when you are examining Basil's fascination vis-a-vis Dorian Gray. Now, this particular quote from the text again very wonderfully exhibits this kind of a personal experience of the artist with the subject of his art. Now, Basil says, "I really cannot exhibit it. I have put too much of myself into it," unquote. Now, what is he talking about exhibiting? He's talking about the portrait of Dorian Gray that he paints. He's so deeply invested in this particular individual, in the appreciation of his beauty, that he says that it is difficult for me to put the artwork out there because that would mean revealing my own soul to the world. So friends, and we will continue the discussion about Dorian Gray and the different value systems and the characters which are there in the novel. Thank you.